Good evening. This June the 4th Board of Aldermen meeting is hereby called to order. I'd like to ask Alderwoman Pat Hamilton to lead us in invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, which I will lead. Please stand.
Please join me in prayer. Dear Father in heaven, we thank you for your many blessings. We especially thank you for this beautiful day that we've enjoyed. Dear Lord, we share so many blessings that you give us, a beautiful city, a wonderful place to live. And we just ask you, dear Lord, as we go through our agenda tonight, we need your guidance on the decisions that we make. We pray, dear Father, that you will receive the honor and the glory for the decisions that are made all through this meeting. Guide our mayor tonight as he leads the meeting. Give him the wisdom and knowledge, dear Lord. And now we ask this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Ms. Stewart, would you conduct roll call?
Aldridge. Here. Collins.
Here.
Dickerson.
Here.
Earhart.
Here.
Hamilton. Here. Henderson. Here. Wallace.
All aldermen are present, so obviously a quorum is established. Board, you've had before you the regular minutes of the May 21st Board of Aldermen meeting, and special thanks Alderman at Large Collins for filling in on my behalf for that meeting. Any questions about the minutes from the meeting? And if no questions, any motions on those meetings?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Alderwoman Hamilton. Is there a second? Second, Alderman Wallace. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We're going to stray from the agenda for a moment. We're very fortunate and blessed to have with us today one of our local heroes, Mr. K.T. Robbins. Mr. Robbins, thank you for being back with us. You approached this board and myself maybe 2 years ago and had what we thought was a great idea as well. You asked for, at the time, you asked for all World War II veterans to be exempt of all property taxes because of their service, and at that time we told you as the city we couldn't do that, but that'd be in the state's purview. And we reached out to two representatives that we have with us tonight, or two legislators, Representative Kim Remack and Senator David Parker, who really went to work on that and did an awesome thing statewide. And I don't want to steal their thunder, but Representative Remack, if you would come forward and tell us a little bit about House Bill 1378. House Bill 1378, maybe at the microphone to my left, your right, so everyone can hear.
House Bill 1378 came to fruition after speaking with Mr. K.T. Robbins about 4 years ago. I asked him also to talk to our mayor. I am happy to serve as Mr. K.T.'s House of Representative. We worked on this bill, and so this is a property tax exemption for honorably discharged veterans age 90 and above. And so if you own homestead property, you will be able to get a property tax exemption. This law will go into effect July 1st of this year, and we're going to have a ceremonial bill signing in the governor's office on June the 11th. So there'll be more about this because we want all of our veterans age 90 and above to be aware that they can have this property tax exemption. This would not have come if Mr. K.T. Robbins had not talked with me and the mayor. So thank you, Mr. K.T. And we honor you and we honor all of our veterans. Thank you.
Senator Parker, you picked the bill up on the Senate side, and if you'd like to add to that, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The other thing that we had planned for the legislative session this year, we had a day planned where KT was going to come to the Senate chamber, was going to come to the House chamber, and we were going to recognize him formally in the chamber. He had COVID go through his family at that time, was not able to appear, and so what I'd like to do today is what we were going to do on the Senate floor in his honor. And so Mr. Robbins, I've known for a long time, been a patient of mine for many, many years. I knew him and his wife Lillian. They were good enough to send us some background information on his service and his life. And as a World War II veteran, I'm going to read that. So these are words that I kind of wordsmithed a little bit that he sent to us here. And then after this, we'd like to do just a formal presentation, give him an acknowledgement. So if you'll bear with me, a little lengthy, but not too bad. So KT Robbins was born July 4th of 1921 in Union County, Mississippi, where he grew up working the farm with his parents. He left the farm in high school in 1939 to volunteer to join the U.S. Army. He was in the 26th Infantry, 21st Division. He entered the Army as infantry, completed his basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia, and KT was later assigned to lead a bakery division where he moved between France, Iceland, England, and Germany, serving under Patton's Third Army. KT was World War II D-Day +3, which means he entered the Normandy beach through Utah Beach 3 days after the initial landing. He sat on his ship in the ocean waiting his turn and watching as fellow soldiers stormed the beaches of Normandy ahead of him. At the time, there were 800 ships waiting there off the Normandy shore. KT speaks about hearing the guns and seeing the large explosions from the fighting on the beach. As his company drove their trucks of equipment off the ship and onto the beach at Normandy, the ocean water was coming into their trucks. The beach was terrible. It was a terrible sight from the battle that was just fought. They advanced about 20 miles inland after landing and spent the night sleeping on the ground under some trees. This is where he joined Patton's Third Army after that movement onto the beach. While stationed in Metz, France, he met a young French girl and fell in love. Their time together was short, and the Army soon moved him quickly to other locations and finally returned him to the USA in 1945. Without today's technology of computers and cell phones, the two did not hear from each other for 75 years. Upon returning to America, KT met Lillian. They married, and he and Lillian started Robbins Hardware Store, where he and Lillian worked side by side for 35 years. KT and Lillian moved to Olive Branch in 1970, where they built their home. KT was instrumental in securing the land and building Longview Baptist Church, where he is still faithfully a member and attends. KT and Lillian were married for 70 years before God called her home. KT took some business courses at Ole Miss, although he had never completed high school. He was on schedule to graduate from Hurricane High School in Pontotoc County in 1942, but joined the war effort instead. KT always wished he had completed high school, so 75 years later, at the age of 96, he got his wish when he earned his high school degree from DeSoto County Schools in 2017. Several years after the death of his wife, Lillian, KT became involved with a veterans organization called Forever Young Veterans. This nonprofit organization, among other things, returns veterans to where they served. This allows veterans to see that their service made a difference in other lives and helps to heal emotional wounds from those for these men and women. In 2019, Forever Young returned KT to Normandy for the 75th anniversary of D-Day with 14 other World War II veterans. There he saw the beautiful country at France that France is now, where his memories had been of the war-torn country full of death and tragedy. It was on this trip that, thanks to Forever Young Veterans and French TV reporter Agnes Vahamerin, that he was reunited with his first love from all those years ago. KT continues to live in Olive Branch in the home that he and Lillian built together. And today, at 102 years of age, he will be 103 on July 4th. he continues to serve God, his church, his community, and neighbors, and he serves as a great example to all who knew him. So I wanted to share those words and that history of his life. We did this resolution honoring him. As I'm kind of unique, my dad was 51 when I was born. He served in World War II. I lost him many years ago. And it's great to honor another World War II veteran. So, with that, if you're able to join us, we just want to do a picture. I'm sorry for choking up. I do a lot of public speaking. I don't do a lot of choking up. But this is one resolution for him. I'll show the Aldermen. And what's unique about this is it's signed by all 52 senators.
All you people here so much to have me down here. This is my third trip to be with you. God bless you. God bless Olive Branch and all the people here to serve. You all do a great job for this town. And you do especially a good job. Proud and get to know you for a long time.
Mr. KT, I have a House resolution. David was in the Senate, and you've got all those 52 signatures over there. But I have a House resolution that was passed in your honor, and so that is here. And unfortunately, it's just signed by me and the Speaker of the House. But I hope you'll display it proudly, and we're very proud of you. I also have from the VA.
Yeah.
They have some.
Oh my goodness.
So this says here,
Yeah.
it's a medal to honor our veterans.
Yeah.
So if I could place that here.
Thank you
Okay.
so much.
You're so welcome. And we have a flag for you to take, and I'll put this in your bag. And there are also 3 certificates here. This is a certificate for military record from the State Veterans Affairs Board, signed for you. Here's another one.
From VA?
From the VA. This American flag that I'm presenting to you was flown over the Mississippi Veterans Memorial Cemetery in Carmichael in honor of you, Mr. K.T. Robbins.
Thank you so much.
And this certificate is in recognition of Staff Sergeant Mr. K.T. Robbins for his service and dedication and loyalty to the state of Mississippi. Will never be forgotten.
Great, so great. Thank you so much for everything everybody's done for me. It has been a pleasure to be here today. And all you people have done a great job for Olive Branch. All your councilmen and all of you. Great, it's been great.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
And
Thank you, Mr. K.T.
just keep on doing it.
Thank you, Senator Parker, Representative Remack. And the beauty of that is it covers all the veterans in all 82 counties that are 90 years plus with honorable discharge. So awesome. Thank y'all very much. Those of you who are familiar with our process knows that I give out a mayor's award each month for employees that go above and beyond. And always, as a reminder, tax dollars are not used. These are businesses donate funds for me to award employees that have gone above and beyond. Department heads can submit recommendations, employees can submit recommendations, but just a way of modeling good behavior and thanking our employees that go the extra mile. They don't necessarily want a Starbucks coffee with the mayor, or they don't want to go to lunch with the mayor. They need some cold cash to help them and their families. So this is what we're doing at this time in the meeting. The people awarded this time were submitted by Chief Operating Officer Todd Andra, and the people that were nominated are Eric Crown, Chris Osborne, Scott Trapolino, and Andrew Humphreys. On August 4, 2022, the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, released guidelines for developing and maintaining a service line inventory to support water systems with their efforts to develop inventories and provide states with needed information for oversight and reporting to the EPA. The guidance provides essential information to help water systems comply with lead and copper revisions required to prepare and maintain an inventory of service line materials that were due by October the 16th, 2024. Based on requirements, the EPA and Mississippi Department of Health, the above employees work together as a team to meet the challenges to complete a citywide inventory of water service lines connected to the public water distribution system. In addition to conducting the required physical inspections at the meters, these efforts had to be properly recorded and documented. The culmination of this team's efforts yielded the successful citywide inventory and required documentation that will soon be sent to the state as required. The project has been completed ahead of schedule and with minimal expense, thanks to these team members for their hard work and creativity to accomplish this important assignment. Are those team members here tonight? Eric Crown, Chris Osborne, Scott Trapolino, and Andrew Humphreys. Not seeing any of them. Okay, I'm seeing those gentlemen. Come forward, please. I was going to say, we have really dropped the ball. If everybody, all four of you are not here, something happened. And I will make mention that Eric Crown had submitted a recommendation on some of his other team members, and just as kind of a example, good performers recognize good performers when they see it, so this kind of ties back in together. So without further ado, we're going to go back to the flow of the agenda with public comments. But before that, Board, we approved the minutes of the last meeting. That's already been done, correct? Okay. Anything from the board before we go to public comments? I think I will do the mayor's updates. Thank you, Mr. Dye, since that's the only one left in that category. Oh, she did. Okay, very good. Now I've got the revised agenda. Thank you. Mayor's update, so you have before you, Board, 4 pages. I'm certainly not going to cover those, but I do want to recognize some of them, especially from the people side. GIS Manager Scott Trapolino, who just received an award. He attended the South Central ARC Users Group. It's an organization founded in 1990 to benefit the users of GIS, software, et cetera, et cetera. At the conference, Scott received the 2024 Founders Award for being instrumental in changing the future of GIS. This is the most prestigious of their awards and is a testament to how Scott has excelled over the years in the GIS field. And that's probably why he's an instructor statewide as well. So congrats to Scott for that. Samantha Brach, Carla Johnson, and Sabrina Pennington have each earned the prestigious Certified Deputy Municipal Clerk Award, each having completed 120 hours of education and exams over a 3-year period. So congratulations to those ladies. Chief Financial Officer Jason May recently graduated from Leadership DeSoto. That program, as you know, is supported and put on by the DeSoto County Economic Council. In your packet, the Mid-South Transplant Foundation presented the city with a certificate of appreciation for helping with this year's Blue and Green Day. Farmers Market, you may know, cranked up last Saturday for the first event, this Saturday, first event of the summer. Food Trucks Fridays are starting again this Friday. Human resource stats, I won't cover those, but you see the testing of applicants and candidates that took place, quite a few of those. General Services completed 310 inspections and issued 219 permits for the month of May. Public Works, you see the paragraphs of items they've been involved with. I point you to 1,965 locates in 1 month, just to kind of give you a flavor for the quantity that they're dealing with as far as locating gas lines and water lines and those type things for developers and homeowners or residents that are having homes being built. Engineering team, you see they're making progress on adding the water and sewer connectivity throughout the area. Airport had another good month, 9,109 operations, being a takeoff or a landing. 2024 to date, almost 37,000 operations. IT, you see it's being worked on, and when you see this citywide EPL refers to a project that does a lot of things, but at the end of the day, it'll let our residents use an app. It'll let the residents use an app to upload information, send pictures to Public Works, whether that be a leak or a pothole, et cetera, to be dealt with. This is the first phase of that, and then when it's completed, we'll go to that app to make it user-friendly for our residents. Planning Department, you see the packets that they've dealt with, whether it's a rezoning request or a variance, administrative reviews, pre-application meetings. Code enforcement initiated 453 cases. That's quite a lot for 1 month. Majority of those being weedy lots and tall grass, and as always, large percentage of people cleaned those up just with notification when they were told what they needed to do. Back to GIS again on the planning exhibits and fire EMS, geo-reference items that were built. Parks Department completed soccer registration and also began adult softball season. Fishing rodeo went well, around 300 plus youth participants, and some other things going on as you see at the parks and at the senior center. And fleet services did some overhaul and some work on some mechanical items. And then you see the May events that the police department has taken place in, as well as the June events that are coming up. So just some operational updates. Any questions, board, about those items? Make good after hours reading so you know what's going on with our team members. Anything on the announcements? Any questions? Hearing none, we'll move to public comments. And participants in public comments, whether it's your organization or whether it's for or against an application tonight, when you come forward, the small table at the front of the courthouse has a blue cards on it, and if you will, make sure you list your name and home address and give that to the clerk to my right, your left, so that we'll have a record of who spoke tonight. But on public comments, item number 1 is Miss Angelina Hines, founder of Ella Baby's Angels. Come forward, please.
Hello, I'm back.
Good to see you.
Good evening to all of you. I thank you all for this opportunity. Before I start to speak, I would like to make sure that I thank you for the support that you all gave us on last year. So thank you to each of you. I have with me survivor and a mom of a victim that and she will give a short speak after I speak very shortly, and keeping in mind of our time limit. Just to bring you up to date of what we've been doing. Of course, 2024, we have been in existence now for 4 years. We started in 2020. Some of the things that we have been doing now, we are a part of the national database for Mississippi. What does that mean for Mississippi and Olive Branch in North Mississippi? When those calls come into the national area, our name is on that list, and I was also told that it's at the top of the list for us to give help to those survivors. The Attorney General Office assistants will be here on tomorrow to do a training with us and our survivors, just bringing abreast to us to let us know and the survivors know of the resources, just in case we missing any, that are available to our survivors in Mississippi. We have helped to date 40 plus survivors. Many of those are right here in the city of Olive Branch and surrounding cities, indirectly and directly. We actually got 3 right now in our emergency shelter. What do we do when we get those survivors in? And I know I said this on last year, and I'll just reiterate real quickly that the need is so great, because when we call those larger agency, and just to mention, I didn't see Miss Sarita here from the House of Grace, but we've been getting referrals from a House of Grace because they are unfortunately, they are at capacity, and they stay at capacity. So what happens when they're at capacity? They call us, they send the survivors to us as a referral to see if we can assist them with our emergency shelter. And we have been, fortunately, very fortunately, able to house the survivors for a short period of time. Now, when that time run out and our funding run out, what happens? We know the sad story that a lot of time they go back to that abuser. I'm going to yield the rest of our time because I don't want to bore you all with statistics. I know you know the statistics. I'm going to let the other ladies speak very briefly, and I'll yield my time, and I'll come back on the end. Thank you so much.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to be here today. My name is Wanda Addison. I am the president of LBB Angels. I myself am a survivor. I was victimized many years ago. My children were involved. They were traumatized. However, with organizations such as LBB Angels, which is passionate to me, I was able to survive and get away. And my passion is to help as many people, as many survivors, male or female, to overcome their adversities because they need the support. And like I said, this is very near and dear to my heart, so thank you so much for your time.
Hello, my name is LaDonna Garfield. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. I am the mother of a victim who lost her life to domestic violence at the tender age of 21. My daughter graduated from high school, went on to college, and decided that she wanted to own a business to create hair pieces and wigs and that type of thing for patients who've lost their hair and people who suffer from alopecia. And she just started doing hair around the campus and what have you, and ended up getting in trouble because she didn't have a license to do hair on the campus. So I got a call one day. She asked me if it was okay after that semester for her to come home and go to cosmetology school, get her license, and then return back to college. At 21, not many have a plan, but as a single parent paying for college out of pocket, that plan sounded really good to me. So I allowed her to do that, and while at hair school, she met this her abuser, and 9 months later, he killed her. She was found dead in the trunk of her car that he had been driving around for 2 weeks to help us find her. And when the police got wind of, some tips that came in, he ditched the car and, we went forth. An organization helped us out. The court appointed an organization like LBB Angels to help us out with counseling and, court resources. And that really, really meant a lot to my family, who was suffering and had no experience with the court system and didn't know, what to do and where to go and what have you. And that organization came in and they offered us resources for counseling. They provided a safe space for us during court time, so that we wouldn't be in the open population with his family members and other people. And so I'd just like to say in closing that your donation to LBB Angels would not just be just financial support. It would be a lifeline for victims and families like myself who really need some help with counseling and place to stay and that type of thing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
May I? May I?
Pass those out, that's fine. While she's passing these out, does the board have any questions from of Ms. Hines about the organization?
Sorry. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hines.
Thank you.
Ms. Elizabeth Tolliver, Elements of Life Organization.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Tolliver with Elements of Life. We're a nonprofit organization, and we deal with our mission, of course, is to build strong families that prepare the youth for success and to ensure stability within the homes and workforce. Our organization has been around for over going about 2 years now, and our mission is to provide parents and caregivers with the skills and resources needed to raise emotional and physically healthy children. And what I have provided to you is some information that I would like for you to share and go along with me so you can read about the organization, and also some data that we also would like to share with you as well. If you can go to page 3, that's from the front page. Elements of Life is a nonprofit organization, again, that empowers parents to learn, practice, and masters the ability to form healthy, nurturing, and relationships with their children of any age. We provide classes on Saturdays from 10 a.m. until noon, and for 6 consecutive weeks. Throughout our program, the parents are coached in developing enhancing positive skills on stages of child development, education and truancy, relationships and communication skills, mental health, dependency and neglect, also co-parenting, discipline, education, substance abuse, and job readiness. And we work closely with licensed therapists, a social worker, and a licensed teacher, and a parent coach. I am a former special education teacher, and I also have 26 years of experience in social work as well, and 7 years experience as a special education teacher. So I have been in and out in the fields of working in education and in social work, and also as a educator in a public school setting, and as well as in mental health setting as well. I taught in a mental health setting in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. So we left Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and moved to Olive Branch, Mississippi. And I have here, this is my director and he will take over from here. He is also an educator. This is Michael, and he will discuss to you why it's the importance of parenting classes. Thank you.
Thank you. So you didn't steal my thunder, but why parenting classes? Like my wife said, I've been an educator. I teach English. I've taught middle school and high school. During the process of me educating, I've run across some amazing students. Amazing. Some amazing parents. Ones who know what it takes to prepare their child for the future. On the other hand, I've run across some students that were lacking. Parental involvement, coming to school unprepared. Education wasn't a priority. That's what made me really, really get involved with my wife. Parents need to be held accountable for how they raise their children. I know no one wants to say, no one tells me how to raise my child. No parent wants to hear that. But when I look at the statistics, the crime being committed by juveniles from the ages of 12 to 17, the rise since 2000, that's a time when a parent should have the most influence over their child. The parents between 12 and 17, that's where crime is at its peak in Olive Branch, in DeSoto County, I'm sorry, DeSoto County. What is a 12-year-old doing out of the house at 10 o'clock? What is a 12 or 13-year-old in the streets at 4 in the morning? We must give these parents the tools and resources, the education needed to take control of their homes again. I see it every day. I see kids come to school with bags of hot fries, hot chips, sodas, and nothing else to eat. They send their kids to school to learn on that type of diet. It's just as easy to buy apples and oranges. Something needs to change. And my wife and I and our board, we're doing everything we can to just elucidate it, to let them know, to give them what we can do, whatever we can, to assist these parents. Some of them have trouble in
30
education
seconds.
as well.
30
Yes.
seconds remaining.
Some of them were brought up in environments that were not conducive to learning, were not conducive to healthy living. So we have to deal with the parents so they can have the skills and tools so they won't repeat this massacre. I'm sorry. Thank y'all so much.
Just have a lot of topics
I'm very
tonight.
passionate about it. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board? If you will, fill the blue card out and give those to the clerk, please. And for these organizations, the board will evaluate these needs around the July timeframe for our next fiscal year budget, which takes place October 1, and then they'll decide which organizations they'll be able to support and continue supporting. So thank you. Also, I believe we have Ms. Rebecca Treadway with us tonight, Director of the ARC.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca Treadway from the ARC Northwest Mississippi. We're an advocacy group for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We create events and programs that help special needs people live their best lives. We help their parents connect to services, and we educate the community about the people that we serve. And I know for 3 years at least I've been coming here saying, this year we're getting a building. This year we're getting a building. Guess what? This year we got a building. So we're so excited. After several misses, we actually did secure a building this year, and I am ready for our programming to explode because now we have our own space and we have our own dedicated space so we can build and do more. As I was preparing the flyer for today with our community service numbers, our community impact numbers for this year, I was comparing it to last year, and I know You don't remember what last year's looked like, but oh my goodness, the numbers just get bigger and bigger every single year, which is just a testament to how much need there is in the community. Whatever we build, it gets full immediately, and then we look to try to build more because the need just doesn't stop. So the funding that you give us makes these things possible. It makes it so we can continue to serve. Just one little example of that, we've been working on our job readiness program. This is our 4th year of really actively doing it. And we have so many children signed up for our summer work program because parents are starting to see now that if you take part in these programs, there is a path, there is a way to access work. Now, we aren't 100%, like we can't get everyone a job, but we really are trying very hard. So we truly appreciate your support. In addition to the funding that you give us, if anybody that you know that needs our help, please send them our way. We want to help them reach services. If you know anyone that's interested in volunteering with us, we take our volunteers so seriously. They are a crucial part of our mission because we see them as educating the public. And every person that we can teach how to help an individual with disability, we're creating an ally or a friend for life for the folks that we're serving. So thank you so much for everything that you've done for us. We're going to continue to dig in and do everything that we can to serve our folks, and I just really appreciate your help. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Treadway. Any questions? Ms. Treadway.
Mayor,
Thank
I'll
you.
just make a quick comment. It's for all 3 of our guests tonight. It's really easy as citizens sometimes to say something needs to be done about whatever it is. So thank all 3 of you for coming up, for your passion and what you do to help those who are in need. And thank you for asking us to help as we can. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Come see our building.
Thank you. Board, following the agenda, you have the consent agenda, items 1 through 22. Items 1 through 22, do you have any questions after reviewing those through the weekend? Any questions on items 1 through 22? Alderman at Large Collins, motion to approve the agenda as is. Is there a second? Second, Ms. Henderson, Alderwoman Henderson. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Continue to Planning Commission, old business. I understand this item was continued from the May 21st meeting until today's date. I understand, Mr. Dye, that this is a supermajority, that 5 of 7 votes would be required for passage of this change, correct, with the zoning change?
That is correct, Mayor, and that supermajority voting requirement only applies to the rezoning. It does not apply to the plat item, the preliminary plat item that is Planning Commission old business number 2 on the agenda.
Okay.
So that supermajority, state law says 3/5 of the members of the governing authority. That would work out under state law to 5 votes required. If there's a motion to pass the rezoning or to approve the rezoning, that would require 5 votes to pass.
Thank you, Mr. Dye. And I remind the board, as well as anyone who speaks tonight, that please speak into the microphone. Board members, we need to make sure the microphone's turned on, it's on green, so people can hear what you're saying. And for all, this meeting is streamed live on YouTube and is also recorded for playback at a later date. So this is an application of a zoning map amendment submitted by Ben Smith, IPD LLC, on behalf of Russell Basinger, property owner. The request is to rezone 85.52 plus or minus acres from AR, agricultural residential, to R1, single-family residential district. The purpose is to create a residential subdivision. The subject property is located on the north side of College Road, just east of Craft Road, known as 7200 College Road. Staff report, please.
Yes, sir. As you mentioned, our subject property is about 81.5 acres in size, and it's located on the north side of College Road. We are about a quarter mile to the east of that College Road intersection with Craft Road. The property was annexed about 3 years ago. It does contain a home, according to property tax records, that's about 6,700 square feet in size, that was built back in 1994. Looking at some of the surrounding subdivisions, we have the Montrose subdivision to the north. You have Oakwood Park subdivision off to the east, and farther to the east we have the Payne Payne Flynn subdivision. As you go farther down College Road, you have the Dawkins Farm subdivision and Gwynn Farms located here. And then as you get closer to the intersection of Highway 305, which is about 2 miles from the subject property, that's the subdivision for Old River Farm that you approved at the last meeting. It's not showing up yet on the map. And then on the west of the property and to the south of the property, you have some farmland or cropland located there. So tonight, as was mentioned earlier, we have 2 separate applications. First is a rezoning from the AR Agricultural Residential District to R1 Single Family Residential. And so I would remind the board, this is to a conventional zoning district. It's not to a planned development, so we don't have what we might have in other circumstances with a project text and a colored master plan. And instead, we have something I think a little bit better than that. We have a preliminary plat, which shows you a specific design, which is the next item on the agenda, and that is proposing to subdivide the property into 138 single-family lots, 5 common open spaces, and public rights-of-way. So in talking about the rezoning, I'm going to talk a bit about the design of that subdivision, and then when I do that separate presentation later, I'll get into more details about maybe the process of approval of that. But I did want to start by saying that our R1 zoning does allow for 12,500 square foot lots according to our zoning code, but what's being proposed here is a subdivision where the minimum lot size would be 15,000 square feet. And there's a few design features I think that are probably worth noting here. And this really goes to those surrounding subdivisions, the lots that are abutting Montrose on the north side and the lots that are abutting Oakwood Park over on the east side. The lots along the northern perimeter, you have about 7 of them up here. They're all about 3/4 of an acre in size to just under 1 acre in size. And the lots that are along the eastern perimeter are all at least a ½ acre in size. So they were designed to be larger than what you would have to better match what's in the surrounding subdivisions. Now around that same perimeter, you have a 50-foot wide tree preservation easement that's shown on your screen with the green line, and that's intended to preserve the trees that are along those boundaries. Now all of those lots, I think it's important to point out in the subdivision design, they got the extra area in all of those lots by making them deeper. So all of those lots are about 250 feet deep as opposed to the lots that don't have quite as much depth. But one thing they did within the subdivision and design, which I think is a good design feature, is all the lots within it are all about 100 feet in width. So they held that through the internal part of the subdivision. So when you're driving through the streets in the subdivision, you'll have a good rhythm of the houses. They'll all be set back at the same distance, and they'll be houses that are designed to fit on a 100-foot wide lot. And those houses are proposed to be a minimum of 2,800 living square feet, so they're large houses. So in some of the neighborhood meetings and things that we've had, there's been some discussion about making that tree preservation easement wider than just 50 feet. But the problem with doing that, even if you have 250 feet of depth, is that you have grade changes. So if you were to make that easement, for example, 100 feet in its depth, then you would end up with basically 150 feet of lot depth to work in. And then if you take away your front setback of 35 feet, then you're left with only 115 feet of area to work in. And that may not be enough room to build the big houses that you're required to build, as well as building pools or anything that might go into that backyard. So that's one of the reasons why you see that 50-foot preservation easement in the subdivision designed in the way it is. And I did want to point out too, 138 lots on 81.5 acres is a very low density project. That's only 1.69 dwelling units per acre. So in planning terms, this is not a small lot or zero lot line type thing. These are actually fairly sizable lots that will have big homes on them. The design is intended to be curb, gutter, and sidewalk. It's not something that has an open swale that you would find in the subdivision surrounding it. Both Montrose as well as Oakwood Park are both open swale projects. So here you're piping the storm water along those roads to some common open spaces that would be for stormwater detention, and those are shown in the design in blue area there. You also have some features of the subdivision, or you have a private park that's located in the center of the project, so that'll be some good green space in there. And then also you have a traffic circle that's proposed at the main intersection to help slow traffic along this long straightaway. And we also have a couple of mailbox kiosks that'll be located near that one detention, near both detention ponds at the entrance, and then here about halfway through the project. And subdivision will also have an entrance feature along College Road. That's not yet designed, but that will also be a feature of the future subdivision. So one of the main issues that's come up is street design during our neighborhood meetings, and you can see the project's got its main entrance again right here on College Road, and then you've got connections to the surrounding subdivisions. The main road, spine road if you will, that comes in on the project does connect up here to Montrose and the Plantation Garden Lane Road, which is located here. And then we also have another connection in the subdivision on Elizabeth Drive over into Oakwood Park, located along its east side. So I know we've talked about this before, but there's really two reasons that we're requiring these connections to the surrounding subdivisions. And the first one is, the first reason is for public safety. And then the second reason is for efficient traffic flow. So when we talk about public safety, what the city has adopted, and many cities across the United States have adopted the same thing as the international or the National Fire Code. And what that does is it requires a second connection for any subdivision that has 30 lots or more. So you may ask, well, how did these subdivisions that are around it, like Montrose or Oakwood Park, end up with only one way in and one way out? Well, the answer is that the fire official would have the ability to waive that second entrance requirement, provided that a future connection is imminent. In other words, if they believe that there'll be a future connection, then they can go ahead and approve it with more than 30 lots. So while the Basinger subdivision proposes 138 lots, and it would need at least two ways in and out because of that, you also have a situation where both the Montrose subdivision to the north as well as the Oakwood Park subdivision both have about 80 lots in them, and both of those subdivisions only have one way in and one way out. So in essence, Basinger is solving the problem for themselves by having multiple ways to get in and out, but they're also solving some existing issues that we have in the city with the two surrounding subdivisions and addressing those problems and fulfilling the requirements of the National Fire Code that were enforced at the time those projects were originally approved. And then the second reason that we have those connections is because if you end up directing all of the traffic in a subdivision to single collector roads and through single intersections, you end up causing a major traffic problem in the city at large. If everybody is going to the same roads and same places and they don't have multiple ways to get to the different destinations where they want to go or to come home in different ways, you're going to end up overcrowding some of the surrounding roads. Namely, you'd end up with more problems on College Road than you would currently have in Craft Road, which we do have a number of complaints that have been noted about Craft Road backing up, for example, in the afternoon when you have the situation down with the Lewisburg schools and all that school traffic being generated. And in fact, in our subdivision regulations, it does state that the extension of a street to an adjoining property is required in order to assure a continuous circulation system. And if we go to our comprehensive plan 2040 that we adopted toward the end of 2022, we have goals, objectives, and policies that all deal with the need to have an efficient transportation system. In policy 2.28, it does state that in the interest of providing pedestrian connectivity and improved traffic management, new subdivisions will be required to connect to existing stubbed out roads where feasible and to install road stub outs for connections for future subdivisions. And in fact, this subdivision also has a future connection to be stubbed out to the property over to the west. So at some point in time when this property develops, there'll be another subdivision that will connect here and be able to access from this subdivision, these subdivisions directly over to Craft Road through the same internal roadway network. Now, As far as how these amount of traffic and how it might affect the surrounding subdivisions, we consulted with the Institute of Transportation Engineers, who produces a traffic manual, and what that traffic manual says, based upon many, many hundreds of studies that are conducted throughout the country, that an average single-family home generates 9.5 trips per unit per day, and at the very peak hour, it produces 1 trip per unit, which is in the PM peak hour. So if you look at this subdivision and you divide up those trips and you figure how will those trips be split, either coming to or going from this new subdivision, you end up with 138 times the 9.52 ends up 1,300 and something, and you look at how those would be split, and about 2/3 of that traffic would be utilizing this main entrance on College Road. And again, with 1 of those per unit in the PM peak hour, you have about 90 trips that would be going through that main entrance and through the subdivision at the peak hour. Do about 30% up here to the north to Montrose, you end up with about just under 400 trips per day. But in the very, very busiest hour of the day, which would be in the PM, between the busiest hour between 4 or 5 p.m. or 5 to 6 p.m., you end up with 41 peak hour trips. And those would probably be trips coming from Church Road down into the subdivision. And so that comes to about 1 trip in the very, very busiest hour of the day, every minute and a half through the Montrose subdivision. If you go over here to Oakwood Park, you're talking about almost nothing. You're talking about 7 p.m. peak hour trips at 5%. So you're talking about 1 trip maybe every 10 minutes, again, in the very busiest hour of the day. So while many residents have expressed concerns with respect to traffic, the facts and what life will be like probably is not going to be much of an impact and could be considered negligible. So I'm going to go back to the rezoning criteria on this slide. We have 3 of those rezoning criteria to evaluate this request. Number 1 deals with, was the original zoning classification for the property a mistake? And there's no mistake here. If you go back and look at the AR zoning, it appears to be one that dates back to the 1980s when DeSoto County adopted its first zoning map, and that zoning remained the same upon its 2021 annexation, so it was annexed into the city with the AR zoning intact. The real issue really is more number 2, with the character of the neighborhood, and has it changed to such an extent to justify the proposed rezoning. So one of the ways that development really works here is that it's very contingent upon, do you have sewer service? And it's because of our soils and the way our soils drain here. So basically, in order to have a septic system at your house, you need to have at least 1.5 acres of land area and size to be able to be permitted for a septic system. So really, when this area received its central sewer facilities, that makes it possible to develop lots that are smaller than 1.5 acres in size. So if you look at our 2006 area map, and this is shortly after sewer was delivered into the area, we had the Payne Flynn subdivision came first, and those are larger lots because they may have originally had septic system, and then Oakwood Park came in as the second. So again, you can see our 2006 area, you didn't have anything else over here. Juxtapose that against our 2024 situation, and then you can see the subdivisions that have developed since that time. You have Montrose again to the north, and as you go farther down the street, you have Dawkins Farm again, and then Gwynn Farms with the lots getting smaller, and then even Trinity Park. This particular section of Trinity Park that's closest to Church Road, you can see was not here in 2006, but is there in 2024. So you can see at this point in time, almost all those subdivisions I just named, there's very few vacant lots left in them at this particular time. You have maybe a handful of vacant lots still in Dawkins Farm. And so that really kind of gets into your final criteria and whether there's a public need for the rezoning. And we do show, obviously, that we have a demand for single-family housing in Olive Branch. And as I mentioned, at this point in time, we probably have a total of less than 10 vacant single-family lots in all of those subdivisions that I just mentioned. And then earlier I had mentioned the one that we just approved a final plat for down at 305 and College. earlier, and so that's going to provide some additional ones. But again, there's clearly a public need, and in our future land use map from our 2040 comprehensive plan, we've designated the property in the suburban neighborhood, future land use designation, as you can see. And what we say in our suburban neighborhood district is that they have lot sizes ranging from 6,000 to 30,000 square feet. These subdivisions generally have urban roadway sections, again, curb, gutter, and sidewalks, central sewer service available at the time of development, and the density should not exceed 4 units per acre. So again, we're less than half of that with the current proposal at 1.69 dwelling units per acre. So our Planning Commission did review this application at their meeting of April 9th and did pass a motion by a 6-0 margin recommending that the zoning was justified due to the change in the character of the neighborhood and that a public need did exist, and they are recommending approval of this rezoning. That concludes the staff presentation on the rezoning, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Gambone. Just 2 items. I know, Board, there was some discussion of lot widths and the layout of the lots and the roadways. This is the zoning portion of the hearing, and if we need to go to the actual plat phase, that would be the second item if this goes to that. Also, as mentioned, that the fire marshal or fire inspector can allow only one way in and out if they believe there's going to be future connectivity. That may have occurred. If it did, it was with DeSoto County and not with Olive Branch Fire Department. Any questions of Mr. Gambone on the staff report, Board?
Mr. Gambone, one question. The stub out streets you mentioned, are
Yes.
they already stubbed out when these 2 subdivisions were built?
Yes, sir.
They're existing stub outs.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
This, let me go back to, probably this one's a good one to show. This one got cut off a little bit short, but the right-of-way stubbed out all the way to this property line. And then this one goes pretty much down to pretty close to the property line where the pavement stops. But again, the right-of-way is definitely there on the plat. There's no question they were stubbed out with that intent.
When they stubbed them out, was it anticipation mostly of AR or just anything that may come to the future?
Well, I couldn't answer that question, and I think that goes to what the mayor had just said, that that's probably something that would go back to DeSoto County because some of this was done prior to the city annexing it. So I can't necessarily say what the fire marshal was thinking, but I can certainly say that those roads were intended to connect.
Any additional questions from the Board? Hearing none, does the applicant have anything to add that wasn't covered by the staff report?
Mayor and Board, I'm Ben Smith, engineer for this project. With me tonight are the 2 owners who will be developing the property, Mr. John Reeves and Mr. Chris Lamb, and they're sitting here. If sometime during the presentation you want to ask them some questions, they're willing to try to answer them for you. We are asking a rezoning to R1. You paid several thousands, not tens of thousands of dollars to have some professionals to develop your comprehensive plan. And their conclusion was this area out there, which includes this piece of property, should be suburban, urban, and neighborhood. And the R1 zoning that we requested tonight is one of the zoning districts that lies within that recommendation. We're asking for R15, which is not the biggest lot, and neither is it the smallest lot that's recommended there. I can go into a long list of things that we have done to try to meet the request of the neighbors and the city, and I guess we're going to talk about that at the preliminary plat time, but we believe there's been real change in that neighborhood. Obviously, looking at that map, you can see the developments occurred since this subdivision was approved. So we're asking that you approve it to R1. It's a comprehensive plan's recommendation, And your planning commission voted 6-0 to recommend rezoning the property to R1. There was no mistake made. We're not saying that a mistake was made, but we're saying there's enough. I think the biggest thing that's really occurred out there is the Camp Creek interceptor that was put in by DeCruel. They just busted that whole area open there for for development for smaller lots. We do have adequate water, so we have everything that's necessary to develop this subdivision. He went into it, he just made the comment that that area out there is only 10, maybe 10 vacant lots. And you all are all aware how Olive Branch is growing. That is the hottest area. So I'll answer any questions you may have about the rezoning.
Mr. Smith,
I'll be here to answer any questions about
One
drainage
question.
and sewer and anything else.
The last meeting, we were asked to table this for 2 weeks so that the HOAs could get with the developer to try one final meeting to see if they could come to any kind of agreement. Did y'all have any meetings? And if you did, was anything accomplished?
We had 2 meetings. And the latest one was Monday or yesterday. We had the second meeting. The president of Montrose HOA was there. Wood Park HOA president was there, and a couple other members were there. I think we made great progress. I think you're going to hear from the president of the Oakwood Park tonight, but we made, we think, some concessions. We have made several concessions since we started this process and had several meetings. This started back in November.
Okay.
And we've met with the neighbors, and we've had public hearings, and we feel the senior citizens building up, and people were not able to get into the room. So we have had the meetings, and we have heard, and we have made several changes.
Any additional questions, board? Mr. Smith? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
This is a public hearing, so at this time I ask people to come forward. If you're a proponent, you're here on behalf and you would like for this application to go forward, if you're a proponent, come forward. And again, once you speak, please complete the blue card on the table and give that to the clerk. Sir, come forward. Just come forward, state your name and address, and then let the board hear your information.
Thank you. My name is Rob Oakes. I am the president of the Oakwood Park HOA. I'm speaking in behalf of the development. Mr. Mayor and distinguished aldermen, I want to address kind of 3 points as part of my comments. So the first is, at the previous city council meeting, we submitted a petition asking for a couple of provisions. One of those important was that the motion be tabled to allow us to meet with the developers and further study the proposal before the Board of Aldermen. We've had those meetings. We have met twice with the developers and with the City Council. Representatives from the Board of Aldermen present at the latter one of those meetings. Before I speak to kind of the specifics, I would like to take a moment and I would like to express our deep and sincere appreciation to Mr. Gambone, to Mr. Andy Swims, and the City Engineer's Office, along with to Mr. John Reeves and Mr. Chris Lamb, the developers, as well as Mr. Smith, who spoke previously. In our conversations, they have been professional. They have listened attentively to our concerns, and they sought earnestly to find common ground with the items that we expressed. So in the process of reviewing those concerns, they fall into 3 primary areas, and I'm going to address each one very briefly. But the first was impact of traffic, and Mr. Gambone has already spoken to that at length, and so I'm not going to touch upon that any further. The second was in concern of density. This is an R1 development, which is a relatively high density for this particular area. There are no other R1 developments in the area, but with that said, the development of the plat map allows this to function as though it were an SFR 15 residential zone. And so that addresses many of our concerns around density. And then the third major area of concern is what I'm going to refer to as ecology, and that is the impact to the creek, the drainage, and to the forest. Here tonight is Mr. Wes Hopper, who is an arborist that the Oakwood Park HOA has hired, and he will speak more specifically around his assessment of this forest. But just briefly, the forested land here is unique and it is special. It is an old growth piece of property. We estimate its age to be at least 65 years, which for this area, even areas that are sought to be preserved, that is very old. And so with all these concerns, we understand that this area will be developed. We understand that, that there will be a neighborhood that will come in alongside us. But in discussion with Mr. Reeves and Mr. Lamb, they have agreed to give the HOAs a limited option to purchase part of the property. We are currently looking at the northern 24.2 acres, and that accounts for most of this old growth forest land. We've reached an agreement, and for a period of 2 years, they will hold that land undeveloped for us as we put together a funding proposal to purchase the land. With that funding proposal, with that agreement in place, the HOA is urging the Council of Aldermen to vote in favor of the rezoning and in favor of the plat map. If any changes are required to the proposal at some point in the future, that will happen after.
Continue.
That we will bring forth a modified plan at that time. And I'll, yes, so thank you for your time and consideration, and I'll be available if you have any further additional questions.
Thank you, Mr. Oakes. Any questions of Mr. Oakes on the information he shared?
What was the section of that land that, I know the northern, you said 2/3 or 2 acres, or?
It's the northern 24.2. So if you're looking at the map, that corresponds to approximately the upper the upper portion. If you look at kind of a geographic map, or there you go. You can see that there is a stream that runs east to west through that area, and the goal is, and I forgot to mention that, the goal is to purchase the land, place a preservation easement on the land, and then provide that to the city so that it may become part of the Olive Branch Trails Network.
And that's a 2-year agreement?
That is correct. Right now we have a 2-year agreement, and that the agreement only provides an option for the purchase of the property.
Okay.
As we develop that funding plan and potential funding sources, we will be in contact with the mayor and our representatives on the Council of Aldermen, and we will bring forth a proposal. When those funds are acquired, we will bring forth a proposal for the Board of Aldermen to consider.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Any additional questions?
Mr. Oakes, the meeting yesterday, it went quite well actually between the meeting yesterday went quite well between the HOA presidents and different leaders of those organizations and the developers. Did y'all actually, I know y'all were working on the agreements as much as when we left, did y'all work that out, or?
We're still in the process of finalizing the agreement. We have a verbal, and we have exchanged kind of a summary of the meeting point. We've agreed on the amount of land that needs to be purchased, and at this point, we're in the process of discussing contractual agreements with the hope to close and sign something in the very near future.
It's still that upper, if you're looking at this map, it'd be the upper right corner that kind of turns like an elbow.
That's correct. I think, and if you advance back to the plat map for a moment, and Mr. Reeves or Mr. Smith can probably speak more to this than I can, but there is a specific line that they have identified which allows them to effectively develop to that point and then stop.
And then if whatever y'all's agreement is y'all's agreement, but if that agreement was to fall through, then they would just proceed forward.
That's correct. Then they would proceed with construction per their approval, per the approved plan this evening.
Just 2 points of order for the board, of correction for everyone. It was mentioned that the aldermen were at that meeting yesterday in light of the open meetings law. Majority of aldermen could not be at that meeting, and they were not. There were 2 aldermen at that meeting with the HOA and President Mr. Oaks and with the developer, but only 2 aldermen were there, not beyond the amount allowed. And then secondly, for the board to, you probably already realized, but as people come forward, Mr. Oaks, everyone wasn't there, and I know you brokered that agreement, and it sounds like it's a positive agreement, but there may be people sitting in here from either subdivision that don't agree with that agreement. So the board will need to hear those individuals out as well, because I saw at least a few heads shaking no as the agreement was being discussed, and that's normal. That happens, but there may be people from here to speak in opposition that are not in agreement with the agreement made yesterday.
Okay. And may I speak just for 1 moment to that? I am here in my role as a representative of the HOA board, and we have done our very best to listen to our members, and this impacts them greatly, right? This is their neighborhood, and this is their backyards. And in my comments here, I am only representing the HOA, and you will hear from members of our respective boards, and I please request you respectfully consider their opinions as well.
Thank you. It was one of the better meetings that I've attended in the 3 years I've been here. It was very professionally ran by both sides.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. We're still in the portion of the meeting where you're speaking on behalf of, you're for this application. If there anyone else wants to come forward as a proponent, you're for this application, please do.
Good evening, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to represent here. My name is Wes Hopper. I live at 2588 Kilgore Cove, Memphis, Tennessee 38133. I am an ISA, International Society for Arboriculture certified arborist with 41 years of experience covering everything from climber training to serving as an expert witness concerning arboriculture. I want to thank the developers today for moving forward with the improvements here in Olive Branch. This is my first development to be involved with in Mississippi. Historically, most of my consulting has taken place in Tennessee, but I enjoy visiting here and have had the chance to watch the city grow in a positive way. I was asked to be here to represent the trees with the Basinger development. The concerns presented to me involved the removal of trees and vegetation bordering the Montrose subdivision to the north and the Oakwood subdivision to the east. I was originally told that the developer was to remove all the trees on the development for the installation of the single-family homes. I also understood that the developer requested the rezoning of the property from a AR to a single-family resident R1. My goal with this was to review the DeSoto County zoning ordinance updates and the Olive Branch 2040 comprehensive plan and the Olive Branch civil site plan design review application checklist. Report to the Planning Commission, and the purpose for me reviewing these were to gain a better understanding of what the city expects for R1 development and to also to compare it to other zoning requirements where trees, vegetation, and buffering areas are concerned. My findings showed that most of the zoning for developments within the city encourages the preservation of trees and open spaces in varying degrees. The concerns that were presented to me were to ensure that this development, as well as future developments within the city, are following the plans approved by the mayor and board of aldermen. I can either read to you what I found within the city's plans, or I can present each of you with a paper copy. It is not my intentions to find fault within the city, nor is it my goal to prevent advancing the developments within Olive Branch. My goals are focused on preserving a livable urban environment and the preservation of trees, vegetation, and wildlife. It is not only how I make my living, but it's also my responsibility to do so. Now, in 2014, Shelby County and Tipton County did a canopy coverage study. Germantown, which is the closest city to Olive Branch, has like a 42% canopy coverage. Memphis is like a 36% canopy coverage. I would have to assume that Olive Branch is in between there, 36 to 42, maybe even a 45% canopy coverage. That is a plus. That is really good. But as we further on with the developments and these trees are removed, then we take away that canopy coverage. And where does that lead us? It leads us to where the entire world is focused on the global warming and the carbon sequestering and so forth. However, I would like to propose that this development has a 100-foot buffer instead of the 50-foot buffer. That would help preserve more of the trees that we have here in the city. As far as all this information that is in the comprehensive plan and so forth, such as the single-family residential, page 34 of 140. The purpose and intent is to encourage the preservation of trees and open spaces. Page 41 of 140. The appeal and character of the site shall be preserved and enhanced by retaining and protecting existing trees to the full extent possible in the other site features. Existing trees, shrubs, evergreens, and ground covers shall be retained to the extent that they enhance the project and are effective as a screen, planting, or useful in protecting. Also, on page 76 of 140 of the Planned Development District, relationship to adjacent property. The public development plan shall include enough information on land areas adjacent to the proposed PD to indicate relationships between the proposed development and existing and proposed adjacent areas, including land
One more
uses.
minute. Continue.
Thank you. Zoning classifications, densities, circulation systems, and all of the above. The plan development shall include additional screening, buffering, transitional uses, or design features as necessary to adequately protect existing or proposed uses of surrounding properties. I would also like to request that the tree survey be complete so we have a full knowledge of what we have on the site, trees identified, size, species, and condition, and make it open to the public.
Thank you. If you'd like to leave those items you mentioned with the board members, that's fine.
Yes.
Anyone else here to speak on behalf as a proponent of this application? Seeing none, if you're here to speak in opposition, you're opposed to this application, come forward. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Brian Gartshore, and I live at, oh, pardon me. You okay? I live at 7900 Jones Cove, which is in the Payne Parkway subdivision. And after the last meeting here, I tried to find out how many houses have been approved in Olive Branch in the last 3 years, and how many the board has the board approved. And I called the city, and that number wasn't available, so I looked at the minutes to the meeting, various meetings since January 1st, 2021. The board, by my count, which for what it's worth, but it's over 3,000 houses. And my thought on that is, how much is enough? I mean, at what point are we just going to pave over the entire area and lose the character of Olive Branch? Sure, we do need development and so forth, but you know, I've sat in these meetings and I've heard developers present their case and get approved, and then come back and change the plans and get that approved, and that's kind of tough to see that. You know, you go to the great lengths to present a popular project, and then it comes back and it gets changed to allow for more houses in there and smaller houses. So at any rate, I've seen that. And the other thing that came up to me was, gee, maybe we should all get together and hire an attorney to represent us. And then it occurred to me that that's your job, and we need your help. The citizens would rather this didn't go in. There's a number of reasons, and I'm sure some of my neighbors will explain them, but those are the questions I have. And I hope you will consider not approving this zoning change, spot zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? And everyone, please remember the blue card to provide the clerk once you're through speaking. Thank you.
I am just a regular citizen. I'm not familiar with court. I'm not familiar with a lot of attorney, the way you talk and everything, but I am a homeowner in Payne Parkway, and I have been a homeowner in Payne Parkway since 1991, and I have seen College Road grow and expand, and I have been very proud to be part of the expansion in Olive Branch and how we have grown. One of the main concerns when you bring in changing your zones from the residential to this R1, first of all, College Road was not built to support and sustain on a healthy, safe drive for our kids who go to school, for us who go out. That is a two-way street, and in the wintertime it is shut down quite a bit. It's to ask us to change your zoning because one person bought a property and decided to develop it for quite a bit more money, and you're going to put 138 homes, and if you add 2.5 to 3 vehicles per home, and you put that out there on College Road, or even going into Lewisburg schools, Olive Branch is not prepared for that. They did not build that or extend that road first before those homes. Y'all have brought in Dawkins Farm, you've brought in Oak Park, you've brought in, on the Lewisburg side, larger ones. You're putting another subdivision at 305. You're asking to put this new one here at the corner. But there has been no safety measures put in for the traffic. Building and joining 3 neighborhoods does make it safer to get in or out, but you have not, that doesn't make the neighborhoods like Payne Park safe. It doesn't make my kids who can go out into Oakwood or into Payne Park and play be safe. You've got a lot of through traffic through there. So before you start adding and changing zones, and for them to say the zoning was a mistake, that it should have been a residential zoning, I don't really believe that that is a mistake, because y'all would have corrected it when you went to Oak Park, when you went to Dawkins Farms, when you allowed all the other ones. So for that to be a mistake now, when an individual or a corporation wants to extend 138, that is not a mistake. That is a political gain. That's money in someone's pocket. So I'm just asking, before you take a private homes that has been our homes that we built, we had since 91, and we followed all the rules, please consider that the people who bought, and when we bought, we followed the rules. We didn't come before you and say, hey, I want to take my property and extend it, let's make a lot more money and so on. Lewisburg School is not prepared to handle 138 more kids. We're talking about not just the roads, we're talking about the overall healthy environment. And when you put up here that you want it to be rezoned, that it's going to benefit us as the neighbors and the neighborhoods, that's not true. That's only benefiting the person who's
15 seconds,
doing
please.
that. So
15 seconds.
that's all. I'm just asking you to please
Could
look at
get
that seriously.
name and address, please? Your name and address?
I'm so sorry, I have 30% hearing loss, I don't hear you.
Can you give the board your name and address?
My name is Debbie Jo Castoria. I live at 4175 Payne Parkway.
Thank you, Ms. Pastor. If you will, fill out one of the blue cards as well and give that to the clerk. The blue card's on the table right behind you. Anyone else to speak in opposition of this application?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, the board, I too am in opposition of this proposal. I don't have very much information. I was made aware of this, and that's part of my fault. But the zoning, as the people who came up here earlier, I don't think they're taking in consideration of our interests. And my family and I, we live in the Montrose subdivision.
I may have missed it, but could you give the clerk your name and address?
I will.
Thank you.
I've recently been here a little less than 5 years, and I moved here.
Could you give the name and address now? She's trying to take minutes, so when you come forward,
Yes,
if
sir.
you speak in the microphone. No, sir, you don't have to do the card now. You can do the card afterwards,
name-
but
I'm
just
sorry.
name and address when you begin. Thank you.
I'm sorry. My name is John Anderson. And I'm from the Montrose subdivision, 7411 Rose Garden Lane. My wife and I just moved into the neighborhood about 5 years ago after I took an assignment here. Since moving into the neighborhood, we moved into the neighborhood because of what it offered. It offered us a place of comfort, a place of quiet, and a place for people of our age to settle down. Since that time, we've brought on my granddaughter and her mother, who fell short ill to. What I'm saying here is, I too want to be a part of Olive Branch and its growing, but have we taken in consideration the neighborhoods and what we're being forced to deal with, the traffic, our security, our safety, our privacy? The developers with the rezoning, it too is about profit, but what about our property and what's at stake for our property? It'll lower our value. You bring those homes into our neighborhood, our value go down. Have that been taken in consideration? I'm offering this to the board. There may be some people who may have a different opinion, but I am not one. I really think, in my opinion, that the zoning and, could you go back to some of the,
Sorry, you need to be
Artifact?
addressing the Board of Aldermen. They're listening to your concerns.
okay,
We don't
in
really
the
have time to
design,
put
I
items
wanted to
back
go-
up.
I'm sorry, in the design of the zoning and the community, and then made mention of the interests and the safety to the interests. It should have been taken in consideration to incorporate those interests into the design instead of utilizing all the property for development. There are other ways that they can take into the design of the community that will offer additional access to the new area of development that won't impact my neighborhood or the other. That is one of my oppositions. I too have more concerns, but I don't want to take up the board. I have my address.
You've got another 30 seconds, sir, if you'd like to
Thank
continue.
you. I'll address it later.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak in opposition? And please complete the blue card with your name and address for the clerk when you do get through, so she'll have that for the record.
My name is John Norman. I live at 7970 Elizabeth Drive. That's in Payne Parkway. I'm here representing my 99-year-old mother who's been in Payne Parkway since 1981. Biggest thing here, guys, congestion, congestion, congestion. We've all talked about it. We've seen the presentation where they're trying to address it. What's the upside? The only upside is for the developer. He's going to sell more lots. He's going to sell more homes. And for us that live there, we get congestion. And, you know, we're constantly coming here that we live on College Road. We've had other zoning issues, and it's always the same thing. They want to change the zoning law so they can make more money, and then the residents have to put up with this stuff. So let's just keep it as AR. Everybody will be happy. They get to build their houses, and hopefully it'll keep the congestion down. I'll make one point on the map that they showed. They have an exit on the southwest exit going out of the subdivision onto College Road. I drive that all the time, down from Payne Park exit down to Craft Road. That's on a blind curve. Good luck, and tell the fire department they're going to be going to a lot of wrecks there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Board of Aldermen, good evening. My name is Charlie Schaefer. I live at 4774 Antebellum Lane in Montrose subdivision. I'm not an engineer. I'm not an arborist. I am really not the sharpest drawer in the knife. I'm not. And I am a citizen of Olive Branch, though. And I have spoke with many of you. I know you personally and love you very much, and this is a very tough decision. I'm going to speak from the heart. I have an 8-year-old boy. We play out in the yard every day, and I'm sure you've heard this many times from people that are wanting to put in subdivisions in opposition. I am opposed. I walk my dog, and I'm not the only one that does that in our community. We're not a curb community. Antebellum Lane is the main drag, if you would, into our subdivision. There's 8 houses on that road that have the Antebellum Lane address. And when I hear of the amount of traffic that is going to come into our subdivision, it scares me. It really does. A car every 1.5 minutes or whatever that was, it's kind of ridiculous. I don't know how they could figure that out, but that's a lot. We're playing Saturday. You know, wiffle ball is really hot right now. It's a lot of fun. You need to try it. It's a stress reliever for me in the profession that I'm in. There were 15 cars, and that's with just our subdivision, within an hour. I can't imagine adding more vehicles down that lane. And again, it was mentioned earlier about the infrastructure, and I shared this with you guys. I would like to say this publicly. If the city would maybe think ahead, even if it is approved, Craft is a nightmare. I take my son to North Point every morning, 7:45. I look to my left at Church and Craft, and it was backed up past College Road. I can't imagine what it's going to be like unless that is 4 lanes in Whiten. And it's also been brought up about College Road. It is a wreck. I drove down it one day last week to see it again. It's 2-lane. There's no way. I think about the infrastructure. Maybe that could be done first, if in fact this is approved. But I, along with most everybody that is present today, are in opposition.
I'm respectfully going to ask that you refrain from clapping. The reason being, the other side can clap just as loud, and we can clap louder on both sides. And I'm glad you're here. I wish we had this many citizens at every board meeting, but I don't want one side to try to outclap the other one. I don't want to maintain decorum with the meeting. So please come forward. Those in opposition, ma'am, come forward.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I'm Ruby Webb from Payne Parkway, 4350, and I'm 14 years old, and I'm in opposition to this project because I worry about as everybody said here, the safety of me and the safety of others. Every day I like to walk my dog and go out on my road and streets, and I don't worry about my safety that much because I know that our neighborhood is very safe and it's not connected to bigger things that can be congested with cars and stuff, so I don't have to worry about all that. So my biggest concern is to be congested in traffic, because every morning on the way to school, no matter how early we leave, College Road is a nightmare. And sometimes I'm late to school, and I can't help that because the cars are very congested over there in College and Craft, and that's my main concern. But my also main concern is wildlife factors. I really would not like the trees to be cut down because we bought the house because we love the trees and the good features, and if we put this neighborhood in place, I feel that these features won't be as bold anymore, and like other people have said up here, it's just for the money. They're not thinking about how the residents feel and how we feel as neighbors of the community. And we have lots of deer that come through, and we enjoy them, and without these features, these nature features, we can't see all the stuff that we usually do. And I don't have much to say, but I've lived here for 5 years, and I really enjoy this neighborhood, and I'm opposed to this project because I feel that it would disrupt wildlife and disrupt my everyday things. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you for participating in your local government. Anyone else to speak in opposition?
Hi, y'all. I live in Montrose subdivision, and I've attended a couple of the planning meetings, but I do have concerns about, as she spoke, with College Road. Because the traffic, from my view of my backyard, I watch College Road every day, and it's backed up. That four-way stop sign is congested early morning, late evening, maybe lets up a little in the afternoon, but it's really is congested. In our subdivision, we don't have any sidewalks, so most of the residents walk their children, their babies, their dogs, or just walk themselves, their regular exercise, on the road. And I'm thinking, how much traffic is gonna come from this neighborhood to cut through, because mostly all the shopping is on Goodman Road. Everybody goes up to Goodman, Kroger's and Olive Branch, that whole stretch. So nobody's going south, towards Lewisburg. There is no shopping down there. They're going to school down there, but all the shopping is up in Goodman Road. So they're all gonna be filtering through Montrose subdivision to go shopping, to go to the new Cascades. And I've been here 9 years in the same house, and the traffic just from the FedEx ground and all that warehouse that's been built up in the back there has just increased the traffic even more in the morning. And so I do have a little concern about the traffic, and especially where we don't have any sidewalks for residents. If I have a party at my house and my guests park on the road, you can barely get through a car. Like if I park my guests on the road to get through the road, I mean, you just have a few feet to get by, whether it's emergency vehicles or whatever. I just think that the traffic is gonna be an issue, and people are gonna use our neighborhood to cut through. They're not gonna go at College and wait at the light at Craft to take a left to get onto College to come back into their residence. They're gonna be cutting through our neighborhood, and that was my concern, and I appreciate it. And my name is Marilyn Gonzalez, and I'm in Montrose Subdivision, 4535 Plantation Garden Drive.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Hello, Mayor, Alden. My name's John Knapp. I'm also on Payne Parkway.
Been here since 2006. Like many people, we moved here, family, lovely rural area, quiet roads. As everybody has said, it's gotten worse and worse over the years. They keep packing in more houses, smaller areas. We also don't have sidewalks in my neighborhood. I walk my dogs, my kid rides his bike. I think it's unfair to all of us who bought into this area for its wildlife, trees, to all of a sudden now be forced into a situation where they're just gonna pack them in tighter and tighter. After this, what's next? As soon as the farmland to the east goes, it's townhouses? Are we gonna have hotels? And it's also laughable to think that that many cars on one end for all these new houses and on the other end on 305 and College. It is gonna be a nightmare traffic-wise. If you wanna do it right. Put in the infrastructure first. Let us have a little warning. Not somebody who buys a huge plot knowing that it's 1 acre, 2 acres per lot, and then tries to change it after the fact. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional?
My name is Brenda Brewer. I live at 7268 Old South Drive in Montrose subdivision. Everybody here has spoken about the traffic and how we oppose this new subdivision. And I just want to echo those statements. And as well, just remind you that we're the ones who are standing in lines at the polls voting for you, the people who promise, who are going to represent us if we vote for you. So, you know, we're given a platform to speak, but are you hearing us? That's all I have to say.
Anyone else?
Hi, I live in Payne Parkway subdivision, and I guess my concern really is a lot about the roads themselves. College is pretty dangerous. People speeding, there's full of potholes. It was several months, and none of the repairs to the potholes were there. Even the road, Payne Parkway itself right now has potholes where the pavement is missing. So I think we need to get the roads set up first for the access for all of this traffic that's gonna be the result of any new building before we put the houses in. Because if somebody goes and looks at the stop sign there at College and Craft, you can be lined up a good ways, probably about halfway down the road. And one of the problems I noticed is when the city went in and striped that road after repaving it recently, they cut the turn lane by length by about half. So now you have to wait even longer in the single lane file to get up just to turn left if you were going to. So if the roads were a little bit better improved and in better condition overall, and I agree with somebody who talked about having that south exit right there where Church Road, where College makes a little bend as it goes down the hill, you can't see around that corner. And there's gonna be some problems there, I'm pretty certain. And during the winter time, it's nearly impassable. So I think, first off, I think the roads need to be put in order first to accommodate the traffic that we already have before we add any more houses and more traffic. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, I'm Leslie Brooks. I live at 4605 Rebecca Park Drive in Payne Parkway. I don't believe that this should be rezoned because, again, all of the congestion, but what does our subdivision have to do with your new development? We don't need any extra traffic in our neighborhood. We bought into this neighborhood because it is small, because it is quiet, because it is secluded. If we wanted to live in a busier area, we would have bought in a busier area. We don't have sidewalks. Our children's walk our children walk, we walk our dogs, we play outside. We don't have fences, we don't have a gated community, and we don't have the need for the extra traffic. If you're gonna start adding extra traffic, you need to put in some speed bumps, you need to put in some, basically, we don't want it. We don't want the traffic, we don't want the extra people in the area. If they need to travel, they need to travel on College and it needs to be widened, or they need to use Craft and it needs to be widened, not our neighborhoods.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Wendy Powell. I live at 4643 Heritage Drive in Montrose subdivision. I feel bad that this is one of my first times coming and speaking to you guys, so thank you for having me. Montrose, we have a Facebook group, and I think I just heard just the pulse of the neighborhood that we know that Olive Branch is very desirable. We know that it's gonna grow. It's more so just we don't necessarily object the growth and the houses, but just the connecting to our subdivision. When we moved into our subdivision about 3.5 years ago, Julie and some of the welcome committee that came over to our house with welcome baskets and things like that, and just made us feel very welcome to the neighborhood. And you just don't see that anymore. I know my neighbors to the left of me, the neighbors to the right of me, the neighbors in front. We're just very close knit. And so just to lose that, I'm just fearful. You know, like I got off work, I wanted to come home, but you know, I wanted to come here to just voice my opinion about it, and things like that. I commute 45 minutes to Cordova as a nurse practitioner and taking care of, you know, the greater Mid-South area. And, you know, I bought a house in Olive Branch because of the exclusiveness. You know, if I wanted to live in Cordova or Germantown, I would have bought a house there. But just, you know, wanted to be a part of something, you know, a part of something great. And the newer neighborhood that they're proposing, it's just not like apples to oranges. Like, we don't have the sidewalks, and they will. We don't have curbs, they do. We have our mailboxes are, you know, right there with our houses, and they're gonna have this little, you know, congested thing. Just with the area that they said that they're gonna have this common ground, they're saying that we're not able to use it. Like I said, the connecting part, we're just gonna lose all these animals and stuff like that. I have 5 deer that come behind my house every day, and they just sit there and just look cute. So just losing that as well is just very sad. I'm probably about 8 houses from one of the connecting parts that they wanted to do. I have a son, and so I will be here all the time on his behalf, because I just fear for just our children, things like that too. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Mayor, Dave, George, you know me. When I came up to this meeting, my wife told me to sit down and just shut up. Unfortunately, I don't have that ability. The only problem I've got with this subdivision you're going to put in my backyard, by the way, did anybody stop and think about the infrastructure? On the south side, you got this thing coming out on College Road. Do you know where it comes out on College Road? And on the top of a hill and then a blind bend. It's true. It's a 2-lane road. And then you've got, when it goes out the other side to the north, it's going out through a subdivision of all things. The same to the east is going out through a subdivision. We're going to kill a bunch of people right there on College Road if we're not real careful. But I want these things to happen to Olive Branch. We got to grow. If we don't, we die. But I'll say this, we do need to think about it a little bit. Let's get some infrastructure going so that it'll handle the people. That's about all I got to say.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor. My name is Celia Webb. I live at 4350 Payne Parkway. I think something that nobody's brought up yet is the issue of crime. We lived in a subdivision like this, and we moved our family to this subdivision in Payne Parkway because the houses are much further away from the street, which is a huge deterrent for most criminals. And we have not, that I know of, had any crime or carjackings or all the things that I'm hearing about all over Olive Branch. And Memphis is bleeding into Olive Branch quickly. And I think it's going to tax not only the law enforcement, but we would be scared. You open up the traffic and people have more access. And I think that these houses that are closer to the road are much easier it's a target. I know it's a target. We lived in that subdivision. We had somebody break into our car. It's just an attraction, and if they know they can get over to the other neighborhoods, that's really scary for me as a mom. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Mark Du Bois. We live at 4370 Payne Parkway. And I won't repeat all the things that are being said. The infrastructure, College and Craft Roads, are not ready from a safety or a capacity standpoint for a subdivision of this size. And it was stated earlier, the only other thing I'll say is it was stated earlier that the traffic impact through the connecting neighborhoods is expected to be negligible, was the word that was used. We have lived in Payne Park for 23 years, and when we connected to Dawkins Farm, we saw a significant increase. We still see it. From my house, we can see the connecting road, and there's a steady flow of traffic between the neighborhoods. People do cut through. So that was incorrect information. It will not be negligible, especially for the number of houses that are being proposed to be built. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Last call, anyone else? Seeing none, the public comments portion of the meeting is closed. At this time, board, do you have any questions of staff or the applicant based on the public comments?
Yeah, I've got a question maybe for the developer. The agreement that was talked about, I believe it was 24 acres. Do you have any idea how many lots that would take out of the subdivision if that went through?
We have 84 acres and 24, that's...
It's about 30%.
33%, so...
It's about 30% of the
Take 33
area.
times 138, and you get 1/3, 40 something lots.
Okay.
Yep.
So it would be, if he did that, it would go down to less than 100 lots probably.
It'd
right
be
around
low
100 or a little bit
probably
less.
low 90s.
Okay. All right. That was a question I had for the developer. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gambone, you said earlier, how many trips per day is that? You estimated through Montrose?
Yeah, it's, go back to the slide. Let's assume that 30% of the trips that were generated would use Montrose. And when I say a trip, I mean either coming or going, so it could be north or south. And that comes out to 394 per day and 41 in the very, very busiest hour of the day, which is in the very, very busiest hour, one trip every minute and a half.
Which is around 2,000 a week.
No,
Okay, hey, I'm gonna follow it up. That, you know, what Dale said, and even what Wallace was saying about it, if this goes through where it's not developed, Montrose won't even be hooked up, right?
George, I didn't understand.
All right. Well, you know, the old growth is next to Montrose.
Yes.
Old Grove. And if the agreement is to buy it, it not only lessens the number of lots, it also makes Montrose not hooked up, right?
That's correct.
You know, I mean, I know that if.
Yeah, if
you
it's,
know, you're
if
talking
it's,
about 2 or 3 years.
if this agreement, is successful, there will not be a connection to Montrose.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the meeting yesterday. I was one of the ones that was
Okay.
in the meeting trying to work out something.
Yeah.
You know that College Road is not a good deal, you know, but I don't know, you know, I don't know where you stop developing. I mean, you develop Dawkins Farms and all of those, you know. That's all I got to say right now.
Mr. Dye, we've heard about this potential gentleman's agreement or agreement. For the board's knowledge, what authority, if any, does a city have to address that agreement? Is it a civil agreement between the subdivisions and the developer, or how does the city become involved in that if the board opts to go that way?
For purposes of the rezoning, the potential agreement between the developer, the landowner, the HOAs, any other private citizens would be just that. It would be a private agreement. The singular question for the board with respect to the rezoning is, has the state law rezoning criteria been satisfied? So under Mississippi law, the rezoning criteria is, was there substantial evidence of change in the area and a public need? I do not recommend a conditional zoning of any sort. It's either rezoned to R1 or it's not rezoned. I do not recommend a zoning that is conditioned on a private agreement. So Mayor, I think to answer your question, it would be just that. It would be a private agreement that would be enforced privately, it would be negotiated privately, and it would be enacted privately if it actually comes to pass. That would be a private agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Dye. Any other questions by the board?
Yeah, Mayor, I had a couple of questions, if I might, please. And of course, to Mr. Lamb or Mr. Reeves, you can comment on this if you'd like to, but it sounds like obviously if that agreement were to go through, it's going to take 2 years to come to fruition. Whether it goes through or not to purchase that conservation easement, any idea when section C and D might even start development?
With the current
timetable?
build out, we think that's probably 4 to 5 years before we build back on that 24 acres, 24.2 acres. So it'd be 4 to 5 years.
Regardless if the conservation easement goes through or not?
Whether or not it's the conservation easement is purchased or not, it still will be 4 to 5 years.
And that's before you would cut trees or move dirt if that were to happen, correct?
Right.
Okay. Another question I had was, and you may or may not know this and may not want to comment on it. If you do, is there any action on the cropland to the west of the development proposed rezoning? It's obvious that it's going to be probably developed at some point, whether it's commercial or residential, but do you have any interest options on that, or do you care to comment on it?
No, we have no options. We have no desire or any interest in developing the property to the west.
Okay.
We do have a stub out, which is required, and we do stub out, but we do not have any plans whatsoever to stub that street out further.
And then lastly, I have a question for Mr. Gambone or Mr. Swims, either one or both to comment on this. Is it possible or likely, if this subdivision were to go through, that entrance on College Road, is there room for any kind of ingress, egress, alternate way to enter in and out, kind of like we did on the Old River Farms on 305? I mean, you've got a narrow neck or point, looks like, here to get on College Road, but is there room to do it?
As part of the next agenda item, which deals with the actual subdivision, one of the requirements and conditions that's placed on that subdivision are frontage improvements along College Road. Andy can speak to those more than I can, but that is included in the very next agenda item.
Okay.
Is this the curb that is right there at the Williams property right there? That's where it is, isn't it?
Yes.
That's all I had, Mayor.
Thank you. Does the board have any other questions of the applicant? Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Mayor and Board, I was a lot of questions asked about, I guess over half of the comments made, or more than half, was about traffic. And I'd like the opportunity, if you could ask your city engineer to address those. He's more knowledgeable about what's happening in that area as far as traffic is concerned. I don't know where to do it now or wait until
It's probably better set
the
for
later,
the,
but
for
if
the
the
plat. If we
R1's
go to
not
that,
approved.
if we go to that, it'd be better suited for the plat itself. But just a high-level overview, Mr. Swims. Mr. Swims, our city engineer, what high level for the board is being done to address the traffic on College Road, College to Craft, entry and exit point for this proposed subdivision?
Well, there's a lot of interest in trying to alleviate some of the traffic issues that we have on Craft Road. College Road's been addressed too tonight. I know for sure we're seeing some issues on Craft Road. That's kind of a part of what's coming from Lewisburg. What we have seen when we've looked at it recently is the traffic on Craft Road is generally tied to peak hours. The overall 24-hour counts on Craft Road are not huge, but the peak hours when school's letting out and when it's starting is pretty bad. So College and Craft is one of the roads that engineering's been looking at pretty closely to see whether or not we would end up needing some type of a signal. Now, we've also looked at whether or not that road needs to be widened, and y'all know that it's been widened to the south. And so I think that is in the ultimate plan that Craft Road will eventually one day be a 5-lane road. College Road has always been historically subdivisions all up and down it. I know on our comprehensive plan we're showing that that's ultimately going to be a 3-lane section. That would be a lot dependent on traffic, and that would be a driver for when that needs to be done. Church Road is not really attached to this. It would be with Montrose. We have a good road up there that handles traffic well. I will say that I have looked at College Road where this entrance would be coming in. It is in a curvy section. I believe there's a number of people that brought up that we have blind sections where we can't see. I did try to do an early look, just standing back and taking a look at that road to see what the traffic was. If I had the location of the drive entrance correct, while there was curves that were on in each direction, I didn't see where it could, if you were under normal driving conditions, it looked like that something could be worked out. I had put in my letter that we needed to make sure when this was done that we were looking at any kind of issues that we might have with blind areas where you couldn't see. So that would still need to be addressed, but I think that it probably could be worked out.
There's already been several wrecks there since me just growing up here. There's been several wrecks at that curve. I mean, in the history of it. I don't know adding more traffic is going to help with that unless that was addressed. Because it is a pretty tough curve, especially if you're not used to traveling that area.
Right. Well,
I got one question.
Accidents certainly play a part, and we would definitely look and see where we're having accidents. But we'll certainly look and see if we have any sight distance issues that need to be resolved, and make sure that that's addressed with a part of this.
If this subdivision were to pass, and people were to find out about Montrose traveling from College to Church, we know how backed up it gets at Craft right there, and kind of bottlenecks and stays that way at College at that intersection. As soon as people find out that they can take that right and come through that neighborhood and go all the way through, you're going to have half the people who are stuck in traffic trying to figure out a way to get through there. And I'm afraid that's what's going to happen if that's connected.
I certainly think that something needs to be done at College and Craft. I'm sorry, Craft and College and Craft. I think that is an issue that we're working to try to do something to get some resolution there. And I do think that yes, once people get into a line of traffic, they're gonna be looking for ways to bypass that. I agree with that. So I think that's part of the reason why I think it's important that that intersection tried to be addressed, and we are working toward that.
Thank you, Mr. Swims.
Yes, sir.
Any additional questions for the applicant? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir.
Does the board have any additional questions or motions?
I'm gonna make a motion to deny it. That'll add 7,000 trips a week to an area that we can't get through now during peak hours.
Motion to deny made by Mr. Wallace. Second by Ms. Henderson.
Mayor, if I may, I
Clarify
don't
that.
mean to interrupt.
Yep.
Just for clarity's sake, a motion to deny is not subject to the supermajority. A motion to deny would only require 4 votes for the motion to pass. A yes vote would be a vote in favor of the motion to deny. So if you vote yes, you're voting to deny the rezoning application.
Any questions by the board? Ms. Stewart, if you would poll the board, reverse alphabetical.
Wallace,
Motion to deny.
She's asking for your vote.
Oh, yes.
You voted
Henderson,
yes.
I'm confused. Yeah.
You want to explain the vote again? That yes,
Well, I think you asked for, Mayor, I think you
individual
asked the
roll
clerk
call.
to do a reverse.
Reverse roll call instead of
reverse
standard alphabetical. We need to reverse it every once in a while. So we got.
And just for clarity's sake, we have a motion to deny by Wallace, a second by Henderson. It is not subject to the supermajority. A yes vote is a vote to deny the rezoning application. The first vote was cast by Alderman Wallace, and he voted yes in favor of his motion to deny.
Ms. Stewart.
Hamilton,
No.
Earhart,
Based on the criteria for a rezoning application, I cannot support the motion, so I'll vote no.
Dickerson,
No.
Collins,
I'm basing it on the criteria too. No.
Aldridge,
4 noes to 3 yeses. So that did not pass. Any other motions for this application?
I'll make a motion to recommend rezoning based on the fact that the change in the neighborhood and that a public need does exist.
So it's a motion to rezone, and this is where the supermajority would attach, right, Mr. Dye?
That is correct. You've got a Dickerson motion to approve. If there's a second to the motion, then a supermajority vote would be required. In order for it to pass, that would be 5 votes required for passage.
Motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Earhart. Roll call.
Aldridge, Collins,
Yes.
Dickerson,
Yes.
Earhart,
Aye.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Henderson, Wallace,
No.
Motion failed. 4 yeses, 3 noes. Motion failed under the supermajority. Next item on the agenda.
Mayor, the next item becomes moot.
That is moot. We don't need to take item 2. It's moot based on the first item. Yep. Yep. The motion failed. If you were here on that application, the motion failed. It was not approved. Next item is public Planning Commission under new business, a public hearing date for consideration and action on the motion declaring the condition of the following properties to be a menace to the public health and safety and directing either the city staff or contract labor to clean the property forthwith. Mr. Gambone?
Yes, sir. Correct.
That's right. The next one, no need to hear that second one. No need to hear the second one, based on the ruling on the first one. Yes, sir. That's right.
Would you like me to proceed, Mr. Mayor, or wait until the room clears?
Let's wait about 30 seconds. Okay, Mr. Gambone, we're ready.
Yes, sir. There were, 1, 2, 3. There were these 6 different lots that were advertised for public hearing that were found to, at one point, have been in violation. I can go through them one at a time. This first one, Barron Hospitality, Lot 1B on Camp Creek Boulevard, as shown on the pictures. This one has been cleaned as of tonight, so it's no longer recommended for action. This is the second one, the Kraft Goodman Frontage Road property north of Home Depot. Again, that one has been mowed as shown on the picture, so that's no longer applicable. This third one, you can see the picture. It's 9092 Tremont Drive. As of today, the yard still looks in that condition, so that is recommended to be found to be a nuisance property. This one is on Quail Road, and you can see this one, the front of the property has been mowed to the extent where it's no longer considered to be a nuisance property, so that one is again recommended for no action. And this final one is Magnolia Properties on 7782 Newcraft Road, and that one has not yet been mowed, so it is recommended for action as a nuisance property. And then this final one is the Wusu Enterprises property, and this one's a little bit different than what we normally have. This is one where the mowing was actually done, but one of the problems is they did not remove that big red rezoning sign. So, you know, in the event that you declared that to be a nuisance condition, we would have to get contract labor to go out and take that sign out and then do our normal assessment with that. So that concludes the presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Dye has some input on this. If you'll leave this slide up, Jason.
Yeah, I've just got a question just to make sure my notes are right. You've got Pine Grove still needs to be cut, Magnolia still needs to be cut, and the only issue with the Wusu property is the red sign?
Yes, sir.
Board, my recommendation would be for staff basically to treat that red sign almost like you would illegally placed campaign signs, and somebody just go pick it up from the city and hold on to it somewhere wherever we store it, rather than going through the administrative process of declaring the lot a health and safety menace just for the sign only, not because of the grass, and not having that property addressed and going through the process of tax bills and everything of that nature just for the sign. No, I used to think that too. Apparently they're privately placed by applicants.
We
Yes,
require the applicant or the
right.
developer to put the
No.
sign up.
No, the grass doesn't need to be cut. The only problem with this sign that code enforcement's noted is the property is that the sign needs to come down. The grass doesn't need to be cut. To pull the sign up?
Do we require the sign?
I just don't know what we would go out there and pick up the sign. What are we gonna charge them, and how much are we gonna put on their tax bill for going and grabbing the sign?
We
It's just a
require the
suggestion.
applicant to put the sign up and take the sign down, but in some situations, they don't take them down.
Right.
Oh, okay. I thought we were doing the signs.
Yeah. Well, if that's the case, if that's what the board would like to do, then we just stick with the recommendation of code enforcement, which is basically to do what you just suggested, which is declare it a menace, go out and take the sign down and charge the cost to the property owner. They've been provided a courtesy notice already.
Oh, yes, sir. This has
Yeah.
been noticed over and over again.
Yeah.
I
So-
think that though it may help if we
Yeah.
told them, look, the board has declared this to be a nuisance. If you don't do this today, we're gonna get somebody to do it tomorrow, and then it's gonna cost you a lot more money. I mean, it's basically, you know.
No.
Excuse my ignorance, I thought
I would
that was
suspect,
too.
I don't know what the right-of-way dimensions are on that part of Germantown Road, but it's probably in the right-of-way anyway. And the city probably could have just gone out and picked it up and removed it. But if we feel like that's something the property owner should have done, we can do it.
How much difference is it in administrative efforts to go through all this weedy lot process to do this, rather than us just go out there and pick it up and let a city guy go out there and either pick it up or take a chainsaw and cut it off and be done
Right.
with it? Is there not a lot of administrative extras to do it on a weedy lot?
There is, a city staff person would go out there, code enforcement would figure out what their time was worth. It would come back to y'all in October for assessment of cost and a penalty. That would then go to the tax collector's office to be collected with the 2024 taxes that are collected in January of '25. And so it's just it's a whole lot of movement just for a sign that probably could be yanked up. It's probably in the right of
I don't
way.
see the need for us to go through all those hoops just to get the sign taken down. It does need to come down, but there's no
Yeah.
need to go through that much paperwork and administrative stuff and everybody's time to do that, when we can just send
But-
somebody out there and just clear it up.
I agree with you, but I mean, it's gonna take some more than one person going out to try to.
Oh, I know, it's gonna take a
So
little
you're
while.
gonna take somebody, the city's gonna spend an hour.
Yeah.
If it stays up till January, I'm putting a Ken Adams for mayor sign on it. I'm gonna disclose it right now, just to let you know on the front end. I know we need to do something with the sign. The applicants are happy when they get their approval. Yeah, that's right. When they get their approval, they're happy. They take the sign down, build. This is an out-of-state applicant. They didn't get approval, so they just left the sign up. But we've got to do something with it. Did not.
Yes, sir, they were approved.
Oh, they did? All right, my apologies. Okay. So Wusoo got approved and just hadn't taken the sign down.
I think what may have happened is that might have been something in the contract that was contingent. In other words, once we get the rezoning, then we're gonna close on the property. So I think the person that owns the property now wasn't the person that put the sign up in the first place. I don't know that for a fact, but I believe that's the case.
What would the board like to do with this sign? They can. They got enough
How much does
equipment,
that
they can
cost?
remove the sign, I have no doubt. Four-wheel drive truck and a chain, it'll be out in no time. Yep.
Sold.
If that's what the board wanted to do, Mr. Cambone, y'all moved safeguard to list A.
I'm sorry?
You moved safeguard, the property safeguard to list A.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The only, this shows you on this,
Yeah.
the ones that are in yellow highlight are the ones that we had considered not clean. So we would be down to basically 2 properties.
Right.
Okay, is there anyone here on behalf of these properties? It's a public hearing, is anyone here on behalf of the properties? Good. Motion to order those 2, is that right, Mr. Wallace? Those 2 as nuisance lots and have them cleaned up? Motion on the table, is there a second? Second by Ms. Henderson. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Board, you have probably a more lengthy document than you want. I'll speed through this as much as possible. Is anyone here for the public hearing for Mineral Wells Road to be closed? Is anyone here for that cause? Okay, seeing no one, public hearing is now closed. It's an issue because Mineral Wells dumps into Mississippi or into Olive Branch and at an intersection, not an intersection, but it terminates at State Line Road East.
Well, State Line Road East is a no-truck route, as you see by the red, and adjacent streets are no-truck routes. If truckers come down there and turn back to the east and go to Riverdale, although it's a no-truck route, it's probably more problematic because they're going through several subdivisions to get to Riverdale. We're working off Memphis Engineering traffic count. There's basically 249 trucks a day going through that no-truck zone, 133 northbound and 116 southbound. However, well, also in addition to that, if they turn right on Mineral Wells going to State Line Road, then they're damaging the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad safety arms and equipment. Burlington Northern Santa Fe says they spent $120,696 in the last 8 months repairing the gate arms. As you know, I think you know, 4 property owners were impacted. 3 basically agreed to it, signed a waiver, no problem. They're ready to close it. 1 does not want to sign a waiver because he wants to use his property, ironically enough, to put in a truck drop lot in the middle of the no truck zone. However, when I first brought it up to the board, I didn't realize that the kind of costs that we would be talking about. So basically to put in not a cove, but I guess it would be a hammerhead turnaround for tractor trailers to do all of that, we're looking at $175,000 to do that. And then to pay the damages to the property owner as far as what their property's worth today versus what it'd be worth if we close that street, then we're liable to have to do that. We have to do it. So all those things together, estimated to be $200,000, $250,000. So with that, I don't know that it's the best spend of $200,000 or $250,000 of the city's money to close it. I mean, however, if you want to proceed with it, then I'm certainly open to do that. It was talked about tickets. Why can't we ticket our way out of it, so to speak? And Chief Cox provided some data, as you see on page 3, where they've wrote the traffic details, traffic stops, number of citations written. But it's not just as easy as seeing a truck on a no-truck zone and handing them a ticket. Chief Cox gave me 3 different statutes, 3 or 4 different ones. In section 39-149 basically says it allows for truck traffic that originates on a designated truck route to proceed to the nearest truck route by the most direct route, whether it's a no truck zone or not. So law enforcement's response to that is it allows trucks to legitimately be in anywhere in the city, including the no truck route. Section 38-150 code allows for trucks to deviate from designated routes if proceeding to or from their terminal, provided they utilize the most direct route. So what we're talking about on this street, as far as trucks going to the south, I mean, there's probably a dozen warehouses on the north side in Tennessee. So when they leave, they can go through our no truck route legally if that's their shortest point to their designated route. So again, law enforcement says, why would I stop this truck? They're going to tell me it's the shortest route because they're going to go to 178 and cut over to Craft and get on 78 and go to 269 or wherever. So they kind of lose when they make that stop. A third one, section 38-151, allows for trucks to deviate basically to load or unload in a location of the designated route, provided so they can be on a no truck route if they're going to a location that they've got to make a drop off or a pickup, and that's basically the only way to get there. And I think one more that Chief gave me allows for trucks to deviate from designated route to travel to and from the driver's residence. So imagine that you're the Leo, the law enforcement officer, and you're stopping that driver who may have 2 or 3 bills of ladings that have been through the area in the last week, 2 weeks, 2 days, and they throw out any of these conditions. I'm delivering here because of this, or this is my most direct route to get to 78, to get to 269. So the officer's going to spend 7, 8, 10, 15 minutes trying to decide should they write a ticket or not. You can't just hand tickets to the truck that's on the no truck route because there always seems to be an excuse. And I don't want to put words in Chief's mouth, but is that basically, there's so much confusion and people send you pictures and me pictures on their phone saying this truck's on a no truck route, do something about it. And there's 15 different reasons why they might be on that no truck route. So it's almost a no-win proposition. And if you've got 15 officers on the street, that you want to tie up an officer or 2 at a no truck route for 15 minutes quizzing this driver, where are you going, let me see your logbook, let me see your bill of lading. It's just a no-win situation for the officer.
But even saying that, unless the board thinks, and I certainly am not opposed to it, that we should spend $200,000 to $250,000 to close it. It's one of about 10 interest points and access points into Tennessee. It's always good to close one of those. South Haven's they've never felt bad or never regretted their decision to close Hudgens that runs parallel with 55. It saved them a lot of problems. However, a lot of residential, a lot of different things going on there that doesn't mirror the same situation. We're dealing with warehouses and trucks, not necessarily people in crime. But if we leave it open, we're still going to have issues because they're getting stuck. Trucks are getting stuck on State Line Road trying to make the turn off Mineral Wells, and it locks up the roadway until they get towed out of there. I don't know how often. I know I've seen it a couple times myself, and we don't want them going to Riverdale because that's going to put them through a couple of subdivisions that they're going to drive through. So right now, I guess what I'm saying is the answer wasn't as easy as I thought. It was easy, but it wasn't as cost-effective as I thought.
Well, Mayor, I'm thinking about trucks are not the only things that go on that road. However, trucks do a lot more damage to roads than cars do.
Yep.
And I can't speak, Andy, to the cost, but that's probably what, a mile-long road or a little bit more. So, we're talking $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 to do a road right if it gets continue to be torn up. So I'm thinking $200, if we were to spend that, is a bargain compared to $300,000 or $400,000 down the road that we're going to have to repair. That's fine. I guess.
Magic Wand, it needs to be closed, but I just don't know if $250,000 is a good spend to close a road. Memphis doesn't object to it. The mayor, I've discussed it with the mayor and have an email from him. He does not object to it. When the cost got that high, I asked Burlington Northern Santa Fe, because they had an issue too, would they partner with us and pay half of it? Well, they've got their revenue problems like everybody else, so no, it's a problem, but not that bad of a problem, so they wouldn't step up and pay. Say it again, I'm sorry. No, they want it closed, but they just didn't want to pay half of what, I asked them to split 50-50 and pay half of it, and they wouldn't do it. Although they pleaded with us, and again, Chief Cox is back there, they call us about every couple months saying, please get these trucks off the no-truck zone because they're tearing up our gate arms. Somebody's got to respond. It costs them to fix it, and then it's a safety issue for the motorist until the railroad gets there. They're not going to just pop in. It's going to take them a while to get there. So you got a safety issue of cars going back and forth with railroad arms down or safety lights down until they get there to repair it. I think it's the right thing to do, but I'm not pleased at the cost.
If it were closed, if it were closed, Chief, if it were closed, what's the potential of people just hanging out where the road closes?
Yeah.
Finding a place where it's kind of dark and dead at night, just kind of congregating out that way. Potential for people hanging out down, find a closed road.
If the road's closed, is it going to cause a problem for loitering, dumping trash and all that? Because you got dead-end road kind of isolated and out of the way. How do we police that? No pun intended.
Well, that would be a situation where we might put cameras up there. We have pole cameras that we can place in those areas. We can put that there to counteract that.
How about State Line on the other side by Yahweh that goes into a dead end by US 78, that state line that's closed? I've seen things dumped there, but have you ever had a problem with loitering?
No, not loitering.
I mean, I'm seeing a couch and seeing things I've seen there. Not that I hang out on the closed road, but bottom line is it does create some possible littering, but I don't know that there's partying in the street.
I want to ask something about these tickets. That's always, I want to brought them up to you. Are you saying y'all don't write tickets to any trucks anywhere? Because we got a lot of no truck routes.
We listed the tickets that we write. We do write them. What I'm saying is that by our own city ordinances, there are several reasons that they have that they can legally be on.
Well, I understand that, but I mean, we got Davidson Road, Alexander, all of those are no truck routes. And your mayor's board is saying that, they can go on it and.
If you listen to but look at those laws, they're going to come up with a reason to go on it. They're going to come up.
If they come up with a reason and there's any kind of question,
Bill,
decide that decision. Can he not write a ticket and say, I don't believe you?
He could, but how long does it take him to do all that?
And if he is operating, he or she is operating under their discretion at that moment, they don't feel that they are right to issue that citation, then that's their discretion not to.
but I mean, I always thought it's deterrent. If you wrote enough tickets for them, they're not gonna use it.
It would be me.
I mean, I understand the stuff. I've been on the board, we don't close roads, and every time we've done it, we've regretted it.
Yep.
And stuff, that's the only thing I have to say about
I'd rather take the $250,000 and put it in my ward on the street back.
it. Yeah. I mean, I think, I mean, I rode down the road too. It's narrow, it's hard to turn, it's all that.
No lights,
And,
street lights
you
on.
know, but, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it ever developed, I think it would probably get better. I mean, I don't know if it ever will.
Maybe widen that road someday.
And Mr. Dye said, if you want to take it under advisement, then, you know, we could, because we'd have to have an appraisal on that one property that doesn't agree on what it's gonna cost. I just estimated 30, 40,000, I don't know, but what it would cost as far as, at least we'd have that appraisal if we want to go that route.
To buy that landowner out.
Yeah, or at least pay them for the lesser of value of their property once we close the road.
Indefinitely, you could make a motion to table indefinitely. I'll make a motion to table indefinitely, decide later on, bring it back to Dickerson Wallace.
Dickerson, motion to table indefinitely. Wallace, motion, a second rather. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Consideration of bids open May the 24th, 2024 for Maywood Water and Gas Improvements. Mr. Swims?
We did open the bids recently. We're just asking to postpone that till the next board meeting. We're still doing some investigative work on it and trying to make recommendations, so we're just asking for a couple of more weeks.
Okay, table
Just-
number 2.
Bids weren't quite clean or clear, or,
We did have a few that are questions as far as what can be waived if there were some things that weren't submitted correctly, so
okay,
we're looking into that.
all right. I'll make a motion to table per Mr. Swim's recommendation.
Second.
Motion is second to table, no date certain, correct?
Till
To
June
next board
18th,
meeting.
I'm sorry, to June 18th.
June
next meeting.
18th and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Consideration of bids open May the 24th, 2024 for taxiway rehabilitation. Is that tabled also? Okay. To a certain date? To a certain date or no? Same one?
First meeting in
24.
July, or 18th.
Motion to table until the 18th of July on the table. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Dixon for June the 18th. All in favor? Sorry, my bad.
Aye.
All opposed? Table to the 18th. Consideration of recommendation to approve sub-award agreement modification number 1 for MDEQ agreement number 189-2 DW 5.5 related to the Craft Water Production Facility Phase 1, wells and clean well construction, and to authorize execution.
It's pretty straightforward, but we just have a minor modification to the change in the agreement number that was not correct. So this is recommending, I guess, for this modification to be corrected and submitted.
It's
And
just an
authorize
administrative change,
execution.
right?
More administrative than anything else, Mr. Swims? More administrative change?
Oh, yes, sir.
Yep.
But it still be executed by the mayor.
Is there a motion?
So move according to Mr. Swim's recommendation.
Mr. Earhart, motion. Is there a second? Second. Mr. Dickerson, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Consideration of recommendation to approve amendments to an ordinance establishing emergency medical services fees.
basically, Chief Easton is here, but it's putting us on the same charge schedule, basically, that other cities are on. There's one city remaining in the county that's, I understand, is planning to go there because they were doing what I was doing, watching a bill that went through the legislature to make sure our citizens are going to be taken care of. But it's a substantial increase, but basically our EMS ambulance service is not receiving funds they could be receiving based on the standard pricing that other cities and the county's gone to as well. Is that right? Can y'all hear that?
Kinda.
Statewide, but cities still have to vote to agree to it. Question is, if they have secondary insurance, y'all knew we'd get to
Come
this
on
sooner or
down.
later.
Come on down.
We didn't want to take it last. Mr. Wallace's question is, if a person has secondary insurance, will it cover that remainder?
I assume so. I don't know.
Well, I guess if the person doesn't, if they don't have secondary insurance, they just pay out of pocket.
Well, come up here, Jerry. The way the system is designed, the 325% kicks in, where the insurance company either pay 325% of what Medicaid's gonna pay, or they up the other. So the citizens are paying less, actually.
So the insurance provider would cover more of the bill,
Right.
not the citizen. So it would be the higher of the two, 325% of Medicare or the bill, whichever is higher.
Oh, it's fine.
No, it is.
It's
It's
complicated.
a significant increase. I mean, when you look at the numbers, that's why that we took a while to compose. We almost put this on a month ago, but we didn't have quite all the numbers, and it's a significant increase.
It looks like we've lost $8,000 already in this year undercharging.
We have.
Could have been charging, legally charging, so we can't afford it.
Would have been covered.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That would have been covered.
I think the concern was that we were wanting to also make sure that our resident, once their insurance paid a certain amount, if they didn't get a huge bill from the ambulance service, not from us, it's from whatever corporation sends them out, but
Yeah.
that was the fear factor earlier, that went up from what, $600 to $1,600, one of those, and if in fact my Cigna with the city doesn't cover it, you know, we're worried about the citizens get saddled with the rest of that bill, but it sounds like it's a cutoff at some point, right? The 350 percentile?
325.
325, okay. Yep. Is there a motion to go to the new rate by Mr. Dickerson? Is there a second? Second, Ms. Henderson, all in favor? All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank y'all.
Y'all welcome to stay if you'd like. I know you've got other things to do.
Yeah.
Thank y'all.
Yep, thank you. Number two, consideration of recommendation, disregard. Number three, consideration of recommendation to approve amendment to the master services agreement with Pay It LLC, extending the contract by 6 months and pay all associated costs. Just in summary, we're looking to leave Pay It, and because of other system opportunities that we want, we didn't want to lock in for a year. It's going to take 4 months or 5 months to make the transition, so this just extends it for a half a year. We've been using them anyway, but we want to go a different direction, but it's going to take us a while to get there. This is for utility billing with credit cards, court with credit cards. I think that's it, isn't it? Yeah. Mr. Collins, motion second. Mr. Wallace, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Consideration of recommendation to accept the Event Benefits LLC as the lowest and best quote for the purchase of a city Christmas tree and pay all associated costs. In summary, this is a beautiful tree.
we've been having a tree not so nice for the last few years. Y'all have seen them. It's okay, but it hadn't been really what we want. And every year they take it apart, it's about to crumble a little bit more, it's about gone. The reason it's on the agenda is it's not in the budget this year, so if you approve the order, then the order will be placed, would get the Christmas tree in time for the holiday season, but it would be paid for out of the 10-1 effective budget. So it'd be paid for out of next year's budget. It's not budgeted this year. Competitive bids were obtained, right, Jay? And it's just a matter of asking for your approval to order it this year, pay for it out of the 10-1 beginning budget, and have a nice Christmas tree.
So we don't have to pay it when we order it?
We got good credit.
When we deliver it? Term says-
We got good credit. Yeah, we tote the note on the Christmas tree. I'm sorry. We don't have to pay right now. We got a competitive bid. It has to be shipped in from another country. So.
Make a motion, we make Jay happy.
Make Jay happy. I'd love to see that, but no, yes, make a motion to purchase it. Ms. Hamilton, motion to purchase. Second. Who's that? Ms. Anderson, second. All in favor? All opposed? And if you really want to wait for bated breath, next year we're going to ask you to approve taking it down, storing it, and putting it back up. That's going to come on the, I know you're going to stay awake at night waiting on that. Next item, is that, are we going to executive? Where's number 5? I'll take it. Approve the holiday. That's it. Approve the holiday as proclaimed by Governor Tate Reeves with the City of Olive Branch offices being closed Friday, July the 5th, 2024, and further observance of the Independence holiday. So the governor gave another holiday if we approve it.
So it's a floater, it's 4th and 5th,
Mhm.
not moving it, okay.
Yep, it's kind of like sometimes they do.
Right.
Yeah, Fourth statutory. Sometimes it's done with Christmas and Thanksgiving where if it falls on a Thursday or
What
whenever the
happens if
governor
it's on
approved the next.
Wednesday, we get a three-week,
Sometimes you don't get,
No.
sometimes you don't get the extra July, 4th of July.
depends on what kind of benevolent mood the governor's in.
That's
That's
right.
right. Yep.
The next 2 years,
Is there a motion to approve the, Ms. Henderson, motion to approve the extra holiday if the board votes for it? Is there a second? Second. Ms. Aldridge, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion to leave regular session to go into executive session to discuss items 1 through 6?
I can make a motion.
Motion by Ms. Hamilton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Earhart. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion to go in executive session to discuss personnel matter in the ambulance department, personnel matters in the gas maintenance department, personnel matter in the Parks and Recs department, personnel matters in the street department, and an acquisition of property discussion with city attorney and pending litigation discussion with city attorney? Is there a motion to go in exec session for those 6 items?
So moved.
Mr. Earhart, motion. Second. Mr. Wallace, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. We are in executive session.